What I would like to do is just take you in quick sequences to my some of my highlights with each ball club, and starting with the Cardinals, and then go to the Cubs and the Giants and the Yankees and Royals, and see if we can do it that way. And of course, I was able to sign with the St. Louis Cardinals at age 19, and I'd always been a Cardinal fan because when I grew up as a youngster, we were able to get KMOX St. Louis, and I would listen to the Cardinal games, especially the game of the week and Dizzy Dean when he was announcing and all that. And when I was 16 years of age, I played American Legion baseball in Altus, Oklahoma, and was able to. We took a trip to St. Louis and was able to see three games, uh, three big league games, the first games I've ever seen when St. Louis playing Boston at the time. And of course Boston, the Boston Braves moved to Milwaukee later. That became the Milwaukee Braves. And so I got to meet Stan Musial, and I got to meet a lot of the Cardinals at that time when I was only 16 years of age. And so, and listening to Harry Carey on KMOX, and of course later on Jack Buck and Joe Garagiola. So they had all three of those that were announcers. And so I was a Cardinal fan, just like a lot of people in Oklahoma. And see, the Cardinals were the furthest team west, and so the Cardinals were really popular in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and in all these places west. And so I was a Cardinal fan, and so to play with the Cardinals 7 years, my first 7 years with the St. Louis Cardinals, and able to play with people like Stan Musial and uh, people like Bill White, with the Cardinals, and they had a lot of great players, and so it was just kind of a good experience for me and breaking into baseball and playing for the St. Louis Cardinals. And of course, they had a great winning tradition. And then and I had some really great years with the Cardinals. In 1959, 1960, I led the National League in relief pitching with the Cardinals. And then in 61 and 62, I had a lot of mechanical problems with my motion, and I had to completely change my delivery. But that's a long story within itself as to what happened there. But anyway, I was traded to the Cubs. I was traded to the Cubs in 19 in the December 1962, and I remember getting phone calls from people. Are you going to quit baseball now? Because you go from the Cardinals to the Cubs. That's a kind of a letdown. And so I would get these calls, and I would say, no. I had no intention of quitting baseball or anything like that. And so I went to the Cubs. But I remember with the Cubs that in the first clubhouse meeting with the manager, he in Mesa, Arizona, in spring training, he had this young rookie to get up in front of everybody in the clubhouse, and he said, "I want you to take a good look at this boy." And so we kind of looked him over, and he said, "Now, before he was born was the last time the Cubs have been in first division, not first place, first division, because they'd always been in the bottom ranks." And so he was trying to make a point, that the Cubs hadn't won in a long time. And so I joined the Cubs, and I did have some two especially good years with the Cubs, And in 1963, I had the highlight that I talked about before with the Cubs, and in winning a ball game with a home run and us tying for first place with the Giants at that time. So I spent 3 years with the Cubs. Of course, I played with the very famous Ernie Banks and Billy Williams, Hall of Famers, and Ron Santo. And we had some really good ball players, but we weren't deep. We weren't deep enough in good ball players. And it takes a lot of players and good balance and good teamwork and a whole bunch of things working together to actually have a winning ball club and actually compete for the pennant. And so we didn't have that. And I actually asked to be traded because I felt like uh, they did not have a winning tradition, and we would lose 3 or 4 or 5 games in a row, and they were singing in the clubhouse, and having fun on the bus, and that just didn't suit. I came up with the Cardinals, and the Cardinals is to win, is to win, and you don't sing in the shower, uh, after you lose all these games, and so I wanted to get out of there and go with a ball club. And in trades, you don't have any control. They control you and where you go, and you can be traded, you can be sold, and you don't have any choice in the matter. So I made it known to the Cubs that I wanted to be traded, and sure enough, during the off season, I was traded to the Giants, and I was kind of happy about it because I knew the Giants had great talent, and they had a lot of Hall of Famers became Hall of Famers later, like Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Gaylord Perry, Juan Marichal, and they had these really great ball players, and so I felt good, about going to the Giants and playing for the Giants, and I think the first year was quite a bit of fun with the Giants, but I think I was disappointed in their approach to the game, even when I first joined the ball club, because so far as the mechanics and so far as the fundamentals, they weren't stressed that much. I remember the first day I was there, they was having outfield, working with the outfielders and base runners, and what you do in this situation, that situation, if the ball is hit to left field or right field. And it ended up with a kind of a shouting match between the coaches that couldn't agree on what should be done in different situations. And I also know that they didn't place much stress on moving runners, hit and run, bunting the ball, and sacrificing yourself for the team. It was more or less superstars that could, great hitters and great pitchers, but the team had a hard time gelling together and becoming a team, and working together and stressing the fundamentals. And so I think that was a big disappointment to me because they had so much talent that I do believe they could have won the pennant every year, if they could have had good leadership and good team spirit and could harness that talent into the winning of the game. And so that was my big disappointment with the Giants. And I don't have time to go into it, but I got in the doghouse with the manager too. because I believe I was giving a raw deal at a certain point in time that I'm not going to go into. But anyway, I wasted a year and a half with the Giants where I was in the doghouse and I wasn't used properly at all. And uh, finally, I was traded to the Yankees, which that to me was a great thing. Not that I knew a lot about the Yankees, but to be traded from the Giants and being not used hardly at all. And to give you an example, in 1968, and that was the year I was traded to the Yankees, uh, I was not used properly to get ready in spring training, for the role of relief pitcher. And I remember my first outing in relief was in Pittsburgh. And I came into the ball game in about the sixth inning early in the year, 1968. And like the first batter was Matty Alou. And I threw one pitch and base hit. Okay, so he's on base. Nobody's out. Gene Alley was the second hitter. One pitch, base hit, and he's on base. Roberto Clemente, their great center fielder. I threw him. I was known for a split finger fastball, or the fork ball, we called it then, and it's an off speed pitch, but it's thrown just like your fastball, except it's a slip pitch, and you can't get that much speed on it, and it's got a reverse rotation from your fastball, and it actually comes up to the batter, and the bottom drops out of it. When I was with the Cubs, Ernie Banks would call it the elevator pitch. Down please. He'd get up to the hitter and it just go straight down. And so that was a big pitch for me. Anyway, I threw Roberto one of those and it dropped and it was a ball. And I threw another one and he had a line drive right over my head and it bounced in front of Willie Mays in center field. It was a line drive and bounced over his head all the way to the fence, and he circled the bases with a home run, inside the park home run. So now I've thrown 4 pitches and given up 3 runs. And the next hitter was Willie Stargell, the number 4 hitter in the lineup. And I remember I started him with a curveball, and kind of low and away curveball. He's a left-handed hitter, and he hits it to the opposite field over the scoreboard in Forbes Field for a home run. And so now I've thrown 5 pitches and I've given up 4 runs. And the thing about it is they couldn't figure my ERA, earned run average, because I'd gotten nobody out. So you couldn't figure it. So it was infinite earned run average. But I knew if I got somebody out in the next game, which I did, of course, that they'd be able to figure my ERA. And so after the next game, my ERA was 178, So it was, that means an average of 178 runs you would give up per every 9 innings. And by mid-season, it was about 7.7 ERA, which is a big improvement over infinite, and over 178 to 7 point. But, of course, it's not, in other words, I had a very poor first half. I wasn't pitched much anyway. And so they decided to trade me to the Yankees in 1968. And so I went to the Yankees, and which was immediately a great thing for my career because I was under Ralph Houck, and I remember I joined them in Chicago, and he called me into the clubhouse, the visitors' clubhouse, where the manager's little place in the clubhouse is, and he called me in there to talk to me. And he says, and I'm sure he tells everyone that, but he says, Lindy, we think you can still do it, and we wanted to get you, and and we're going to give you every opportunity to. So, and I don't mean if you don't do good the first 2 or 3 games that you're out. He said we're going to give you every opportunity to show what you can do. And I said that's music to my ears. This is what I wanted to hear, and I'm glad to be with the Yankees. And uh, so my first outing was in Baltimore when I was brought in the ball game. And it was about the sixth inning, and I think the score was tied 2-2 or something like that. The first hitter was Brooks Robinson, and he hit a double right down the line on my first pitch, uh, right down over third base to left field, and hit a double. And then Boog Powell was the second hitter, and so I threw him a fork ball. It didn't work either too well, and he hit the ball over the center field wall. Bang. So here's my introduction into the American League from the National League. Is I've faced 2 hitters and I've given up 2 runs, and so I remember at that point in time I just reached back for everything I had, all the power in my body, and I did strike out 4 of the next 5 hitters that I faced. And of course we lost the game, but went back to New York, and I got my first appearance to come in the ball game against Minnesota and Tony Oliva, who's a top hitter in the American League, and in a save situation, that is where we had a lead in the game. And I got him to ground out a weak grounder to first base and got him out, and I picked up a save. And from that point onward to the end of the season, I had 4 wins and 10 saves, and my ERA was 1.6. So I went with an ERA from 7.7 to 1.6 the rest of the season, and had some really great outings. And then that just kind of launched my career with the Yankees. And I was under a great manager, Ralph Houk, who knew how to use me and get the most production out of me. And so if you don't have a close working together with the relief pitcher and your manager, because the relief pitcher depends upon the manager and how he uses you, because he's the one that determines when you come into the ball game, what the situation is going to be, and all kinds of factors like this. And so it was just what I tell people, that Ralph Houk saved my career, and I saved his career, because his bullpen was terrible when I joined the Yankees. And after I joined the Yankees, then the bullpen straightened out. And I think from that point onward, the Yankees always had really good bullpens, a relief staff, beginning that year and then years to follow. If you follow the Yankees, they always specialized in good bullpens. And so if I had something to do with that, getting that started back with the Yankees and getting their bullpen straightened out, so it was a great thing. And you walk into Yankee Stadium and you see all these flags of all these pennants and all these winning the league and the World Series and things like that, and I think you really get the feeling of what, that you're part of history, and that you're playing for a very historical ball club, and Yankees are known internationally, all over the world, more than any other ball club, more than the Cardinals and more than other ball clubs, and so it's and I played the last year of Mickey Mantle. I got to play with Mickey Mantle. He's from Oklahoma, just like I'm from Oklahoma, and I'm in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. And it's amazing that I'm stuck in that I'm with Mickey Mantle in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, because he's really a great ball player. And we had Allie Reynolds in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, pitched for the Yankees as well, and of course we had many great Oklahoma ball players, uh, and Warren Spahn, for example, a very great player. And so it was just really a nice experience for me to be able to play for the Yankees and the Yankee Stadium and all the history that's connected with the Yankees. And I just wish we could have won the pennant during that period of time. But that was the down years for the Yankees. That was after they had the great years in the latter, 1960s, in the early 60s rather, the great teams, and then all those players died off and are they, retired. And then it was after I retired or left the Yankees that they started coming back with great ball clubs.